Welcome to Crimes and Mysteries. In today's episode, we dive into one of the most enigmatic murder cases in modern history, the mystery of JonBenét Ramsey. A 6-year-old girl, a bizarre ransom letter, conflicting evidence, and suspicions that haunted an entire family. Even after decades, the question remains, who killed JonBenét Ramsey? Who was JonBenét Ramsey? JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia. She was the daughter of JonBenét Ramsey and Patricia, Patsy, Ramsey, and had an older brother, Burke Ramsey. Her life was marked by financial comfort and luxury. The family moved to Boulder, Colorado, where they lived in a large 5-bedroom house. JonBenét was an outgoing child, described by friends and family as cheerful, charismatic and talented. At the age of 6, JonBenét actively participated in children's beauty contests, where she won several awards and titles. She became a local public figure, which raised questions about overexposure and possible external motivations for the crime. Many photos and videos of her in these contests were widely circulated in the media, creating a debate about the sexualization of children in such competitions. John Ramsey was a successful businessman, president of a computer company, Access Graphics. He had accumulated a substantial fortune. Patsy was a former beauty queen, known for her competitive spirit and charisma. She had battled ovarian cancer before the crime. Burke, the oldest brother, was 9 years old at the time of the crime, and was described as a reserved child. On the evening of December 25, the Ramseys attended a Christmas party at the home of close friends. According to reports, everyone was in good spirits and there was nothing out of the ordinary during the event. The family returned home around 10 p.m., where Patsy and John reported that they put JonBenét to bed immediately. Allegedly, the last time JonBenét was seen alive was when she was being carried to bed. Reports indicate that Burke stayed up playing, but there is no confirmation that he interacted with JonBenét that night. On the morning of December 26, at around 5:30 a.m., Patsy Ramsey claimed to have found a ransom letter on the stairs as she was going down to the kitchen. The letter was handwritten, with a bizarre tone and phrases like, "We are a small group of foreign individuals. We demand $118,000, don't try to deceive us." Patsy immediately called the police, while John began trying to arrange the ransom payment. The police arrived around 6 a.m. Initially, officers treated the case as a kidnapping and did not cordon off the crime scene. Friends and neighbors were called by the Ramseys to offer support, which resulted in many people milling around the house. At 1 p.m., JonBenét, accompanied by a family friend, finds JonBenét's body in the basement of his house. She was covered with a blanket and had clear signs of violence. A rope was wrapped around her neck. Her skull was fractured. Her mouth was gagged with duct tape. John Ramsey carries her upstairs, potentially tampering with evidence. At 2 p.m., investigators changed their focus from kidnapping to homicide, but the crime scene was already compromised. The 3-page ransom letter is one of the strangest pieces of evidence in the case. It was written with pen and paper found inside the house itself, suggesting that the author spent time at the location before or after the crime, or suggesting that the crime was committed by someone who lived in the same house. The letter demanded $118,000, exactly the amount of John Ramsey's annual bonus, raising suspicions of a personal involvement. Forensic analysis of the letter found, forensic experts identified some similarities in Patsy Ramsey's writing, but were inconclusive. The language of the letter seemed to imitate movie scripts. Elements that confuse the case. JonBenét was dressed in her nightclothes and there were traces of pineapple in her stomach, indicating that she ate before she died. However, Patsy claimed that she had not been fed after returning from the party. If the objective was kidnapping, why did the body remain inside the house? This raised questions about the veracity of the ransom letter, and suggested that the murder may have been improvised, or the letter may have been improvised. The Ramseys' initial reaction was considered suspicious by many. Instead of cooperating fully with police, they hired lawyers and avoided direct interviews with investigators. Now that we know the basic details, let's take a closer look at the crime scene. JonBenét was found in the basement of the house, in a small room used as storage. She was lying on the floor, covered by a white blanket. Next to her was a rope tied around her neck, a rope around one of her wrists, and black duct tape covering her mouth. A piece of wood was used as part of an improvised garrote. The body showed no clear signs of a struggle. There was a circular mark on her neck, possibly caused by the garrote or an unknown device. The basement was in disarray, but there were no obvious signs of a violent struggle. The autopsy revealed that JonBenét suffered severe head trauma and was strangled. Both injuries could have caused her death, but it has not been determined which came first. Vague signs of sexual abuse were found, including traces of male DNA on her underwear. However, there was no definitive confirmation that the abuse occurred on the night of the crime. The Ramsey house was large, 3 stories high and a basement. This made the investigation complex as there were many spaces to find evidence. A basement window was broken, but police found no clear evidence of forced entry. The autopsy, the official cause of death was strangulation combined with head trauma. The trauma to the head was consistent with a forceful blow, but the object used was never identified. Marks on the neck would show that the garrote was used deliberately. Minor injuries were found in the genital area, but the coroner was unable to determine whether they were the result of sexual abuse or another cause. Traces of male DNA were found on JonBenét's underwear, but did not match any family member. The exact time of death cannot be determined, but it is estimated to have occurred between the evening of December 25 and the early hours of December 26. The initial investigation. Boulder police were inexperienced in dealing with crimes of this magnitude, which contributed to significant errors. Crime scene was not secured. The movement of people inside the house contaminated crucial evidence. Objects were moved, fingerprints or other traces may have been destroyed. Focus on the family. The police focused almost exclusively on the Ramseys, neglecting other leads or possible outside suspects. In any investigation, all hypotheses must be conclusively excluded in order to arrive at the truth. JonBenét's body was found several hours after the police arrived, despite being in her own home. Conflicting aspects of the investigation. John and Patsy were criticized for their seemingly indifferent behavior during the early investigations. They immediately hired lawyers and avoided direct interrogation by the police. The Ramseys claimed they were being wrongly accused and that they did not trust the local police. This created tension between the investigators and the family, hindering the collection of information. Fingerprints on objects such as the ransom letter could not be used to identify a suspect. Major unanswered questions. Why was the ransom letter written in the house? Was the perpetrator an intruder or someone in the house? How did the killer get in and out undetected? If it was a domestic crime, why involve a ransom letter? The discovery of traces of male DNA was a central piece of the research. Traces of male DNA were found on JonBenét's underwear and pants. This DNA did not match that of any family member or the main suspects investigated at the time. Impact of DNA on research. In 2008, advanced DNA testing led investigators to officially exonerate John, Patsy and Burke Ramsey. DNA was suggested as possible evidence that an intruder committed the crime, but the identity of that person was never discovered. Controversies with DNA. Some experts suggested that the DNA could be secondary transfer, meaning it could have reached JonBenét's clothing through contact with other surfaces or during the clothing manufacturing process. The murder weapon. The garrote was made with a nylon rope and a piece of wood, both found inside the house. Forensic experts said the garrote appeared to have been improvised at the scene. The manner in which it was used suggests that the killer had basic knowledge of strangulation, which has led to theories that the crime may have been premeditated. The head injury. JonBenét suffered a significant skull fracture, which was likely fatal. The object used to cause the trauma has never been identified, but some theories suggest it could have been a flashlight or a baseball bat found in the house. Possible order of events. There is debate as to whether JonBenét was strangled before or after the blow to the head. Evidence suggests that the garrote was used while she was still alive, but the blow to the head may have incapacitated her before that. Traces at the crime scene. Lack of signs of a struggle in the basement where JonBenét was found has raised suspicions that JonBenét may have been attacked while unconscious or unable to recover. A window in the basement was broken, but there were no clear signs that anyone had entered or left through it. Jon Ramsey claimed that he had broken the window himself months earlier because he had lost the key, but this raised doubts about a possible intruder. Fibers and forensic evidence from Patsy's sweater were found on the duct tape used to gag JonBenét, raising suspicions of her involvement in the crime. However, since the tape was removed by Jon Ramsey, it is possible that the fibers were accidentally transferred. Food in the stomach and pineapple residue. The autopsy revealed that there were traces of pineapple in JonBenét's stomach, indicating that she ate it shortly before she died. The revelation of pineapple. A bowl of pineapple with a spoon was found in the kitchen of the house. Fingerprints of Patsy and Burke Ramsey were on the bowl, but Patsy denied giving her daughter pineapple that night. This led to theories that JonBenét had gone down to the kitchen to eat pineapple and perhaps encountered someone who attacked her. After analyzing all this evidence and uncertainties, let's now look at the list of suspects the police had at the time. From the beginning, the police and the public were suspicious of the Ramsey family. Most theories related to the Ramseys revolve around inconsistencies in their accounts. Post-crime behavior and physical evidence. Patsy Ramsey, the mother. The handwriting on the ransom letter bore similarities to Patsy's own handwriting, leading many to believe she wrote it to cover up an accident or crime. Fibers from her clothing were found on the duct tape used on JonBenét's mouth. Patsy has been accused of being overly controlling and pressuring JonBenét into beauty pageants, fueling speculation that she may have acted in a fit of rage. Popular theory: Patsy seeing JonBenét wet the bed, something reported to be recurrent, could have lost control and accidentally struck her. To cover up the incident, she faked a kidnapping. In her defense, Patsy denied all allegations until her death in 2006. She insisted that she loved JonBenét and that no family members were involved. Jon Ramsey, the father. Some believe that Jon could have been involved in the crime because the ransom amount was identical to his annual bonus. His behavior after finding the body, such as removing it from the crime scene, raised suspicions of evidence tampering. Popular theory is that Jon discovered JonBenét's body after an accident or incident involving another family member and helped cover up the crime to protect the family's reputation. In his defense, Jon Ramsey has always claimed that the police unfairly targeted his family and diverted attention from a potential intruder. Burke Ramsey, the brother. Burke was 9 years old at the time of the crime. Some theories suggest that he may have accidentally killed JonBenét during an argument or while they were playing. Pineapple remains found in JonBenét's stomach raised the hypothesis that Burke was with JonBenét in the kitchen before the crime, as his fingerprints were found on the pineapple bowl. Popular theory is that Burke hit his sister in the head with a heavy object, possibly a flashlight, during a fight, such as JonBenét eating his pineapple. And the parents covered up the incident to protect their eldest son. In his defense, Burke was questioned several times by police and was ruled out as a suspect. Burke gave an interview in 2016, where he denied any involvement in the crime. The theory that someone from outside the house entered and murdered JonBenét is based on evidence such as the broken basement window. Even though it was broken by Jon, this would facilitate it for intruders to enter or leave, and the male DNA found on JonBenét's clothing. John Mark Carr was a 41-year-old teacher with a history of disturbing behavior. In 2006, he confessed to JonBenét's murder, claiming it was an accident following a sexual assault. In his defense, Carr's DNA did not match that found on the body. He was unable to provide precise details about the crime. Many believe he confessed just to get media attention. Bill McReynolds. Bill was a family friend who used to dress up as Santa Claus at parties. He reportedly gave JonBenét a special gift just days before the crime. He reportedly had an unusual affinity for JonBenét, which some found strange. His wife wrote a play about the murder of a girl in a basement, which generated speculation. In his defense, there was no physical evidence linking McReynolds to the crime and he denied any involvement. Gary Oliva, a local man with a disturbing history and behavior. He was charged with possession of child pornography and lived near the Ramsey home. Gary reportedly confided in a friend that he injured a little girl on the night of the crime. He carried a photo of JonBenét in his backpack years after the murder. In his defense, like other suspects, his DNA did not match what was found on JonBenét's body. Alternative theories: poorly planned kidnapping. The ransom note may indicate that the author actually intended to kidnap JonBenét, but something went wrong. Another hypothesis: a serial killer. Some speculate that the killer could be a serial killer who was never identified. The case has similarities with other crimes, but no concrete connection has been established. The JonBenét Ramsey case continues to fascinate because none of the theories are conclusive. Each suspect and theory seems to bring plausible elements, but always with significant gaps, whether it was a covered-up domestic crime or the action of an intruder. The lack of resolution ensures that the mystery persists to this day. Even after decades, the answers remain out of reach. Don't miss our next mystery. Follow our social platforms for more mystery-filled stories, and remember, every mystery has a story, but not always an answer.